Call the regular meeting of the Ashland Board of Commissioners to order. If you please stand for the invocation of faith and flag.
Let us pray. Father, we come once again thanking you for another day of life in our great city. We once again ask you for your guidance and direction on this board of mayor and commissioners, that we may make the right decisions for our city and its people. We ask your favor and blessing on this board, our city manager, our department heads and employees, and our citizens. Bless all those in attendance today and guide our steps as we strive to serve our city. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Motion to receive and file the agenda. So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion to receive and file the minutes for our regular meeting, April 26, 2018.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Hearings and reports. Commissioners?
Just a quick update, because I'm involved in multiple facets of it, about just an announcement about the Brady groundbreaking on June 1st.
Take over.
Just to make sure the public is aware of that. There will be a public ceremony at the site at 1 o'clock next Friday, June the 8th, or June 1st, I'm sorry. I messed it up from the beginning. June the 1st. And that is, again, all of these events are open to the public for the groundbreaking ceremony at East Park. And then coming downtown for First Friday, Brady has partnered with Ashland in Motion to present a very special First Friday celebration that is also open to the public from 14th to 19th. Essentially will be closed on Winchester. There'll be a giant stage right at the intersection of 18th and Winchester. Tanya Tucker, new artist called Olivia Ooms, Bronson Arroyo, and Naomi Judd will be there. So that's a pretty big deal. Again, that will go from 5 o'clock to midnight, the celebration for the Brady groundbreaking. And love to see everyone come out for that. Thank you.
Now, Commissioner, don't just gloss over Bronson Arroyo.
I'm excited.
He was one of Sonny and I's favorite pitchers for a while.
Well, now he's going to be on stage with a band. So
And I heard his band's great.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Anyone else? Mr. Manager?
Just very briefly, Mr. Mayor, we wanted to give a very brief update on social media stats. As you may or may not know, we re-energized our social media platform in January with the onboarding of our PIO, specifically Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Just a couple of stats. On Twitter, 7,700 people are reached on Twitter. Facebook likes, that's both on our engineering, our city of government site, and AFD fire department, roughly 7,000. There's 44,000 views, just as an interesting stat, when the roof blew off the facility down on 13th Street, 44,000 views of that. And in the last 90 days on the city website, 23,000 unique users, and 53% of those are on mobile devices. I think everything else is perfect.
Okay, that's it?
That's it.
Sure. Thank you. At this point in our meeting is public participation. If you have an issue, a complaint, or whatever that you'd like to bring before the Board of Commissioners, would ask you to come to the podium, give your name and address. If you prefer not to give your address on the media, there is a form there that you can put your address. We want to make sure of a couple things, that you are an Ashland resident, somebody we have the authority to help do with or whatever. But we've never had a problem in the past, so we'd like your name and address. And try to keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. At this time, anyone would like to appear before the board?
Go ahead.
Yes, first of all, thank you for this comment period. My name is Ben Cooksey. I work for one of the local restaurant companies here in Ashland, Arby's. We have a national chain of stores, not only in Ashland, but in the tri-state area of Ohio, West Virginia, and Kentucky. It's my understanding, and I just got this news, I knew you were having this meeting, but I didn't realize it was the actual first reading of the ordinance. So I did some quick reading of the ordinance here first. What I first want to say is I'm very happy to see that this action is being taken place. I've spoken to some of the major food service operators that operate restaurants in our area, and we are all committed to public safety. It's not only public safety of our customers, it's also safety of our employees in and among themselves. I just read over the proposed legislation, and I know that there has to be a couple of different readings. My only comment at this point is I don't know that it goes far enough. I have some sample draft legislation as well. This is not the first city to have committed to have done this. There's things in here that are not covered with respect to what if somebody already has a vaccination for it, that they could provide proof of it. There's nothing in here regarding having a booster shot, because that's what you have to have with the Hep A. So you need certification on the back end that that booster is done, as long as they're employed still at that food service establishment. I would like to see a broader definition of food service included in there. I do have a more comprehensive list that I'd be happy to give to the commission and council for their consideration. And finally, there is one important thing, and this is important to note. You cannot, as a part of this goes, because it's kind of amazing that Hep A is not required. The Centers of Disease Control have recommended this for years, and I don't know of any state per se that has required it. The legislation that I got was actually St. Louis County, St. Louis, Missouri. I think it's very comprehensive, and it's about a 1 or 2 page thing. But one thing that you cannot do is we, as restaurant workers, and even other businesses, okay, you cannot force people to have a vaccination. And I think the legislation absolutely needs to include and accommodate that. If someone has a religious preference against doing it, you can't do that. If they're pregnant, you know, a lot of doctors don't recommend it. And then I guess the medical term is if there's a medical contraindication that having an inoculation or a vaccination might cause some other type of harm, you can't do that. I don't see those exemptions in the legislation, and I think that does need to be covered. But once again, we are happy to see that this is happening. It's a serious problem in our community. We certainly take it very seriously, and I'll open up to questions of me of that, but I do have this draft legislation here that I'll hand to Mr. Martin, just for consideration.
Thank you for being here and imparting that information. We deeply appreciate it, and we'll obviously take all that under advisement. I think I saw maybe on the news this morning where some of these they listed that there were variety, and you named them, you know, basically it's against your religion and all that. But I'm assuming at a restaurant, if you had somebody like that, how would you handle it?
Good question. You have to accommodate people's religious preferences. If they have a sincere held belief to that, you can't get into somebody's mind, but basically, if they say that they are against it religiously, we just don't go there. You know, unless we know that there's a, how can I say, there's a joke going on or something.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. We at Arby's, you know, we have sanitation procedures we're already required to do, being a major chain. We've undergone and are in the process of undergoing vaccinations. I would also consider this, there's some cities considering help funding part of this. I'm not asking you on the part of doing that, but I notice our legislation doesn't speak to any part of that. But, you know, a lot of these people that work in fast food, they need this job. A lot of them are on Medicaid, they can otherwise qualify for the shot. But for those that don't, it's not only us, but there's some other major chains where the employer is actually helping pay that cost of doing it.
We kind of left that open to the restaurant.
Yeah. And
we didn't feel that it was up to us to say to the restaurant that you're going to pass that on to your employees or you're going to bear it. We thought that was your call to make.
and I can't speak for other restaurants. I personally think that is the right call in this case. But there are many restaurant chains, and one other thing I do want to say, that have already taken action on this. I don't want to say it gets a bad rap. It is a serious health issue. That's why we're here today. But a lot of people are contracted or get this, not necessarily in the restaurant. You could hire someone that already has it. And I look at, and this is not making any more major news story of it than it needs to be, there's not a restaurant area that's more civically, community minded than the Texas Roadhouse over the years. All the events you've been to and stuff. it's really sad to see what's happened to their business because of that, because they went to great effort. I spoke to them about that. But we as one chain and other restaurants do that. I just want to see it broaden in scope to make sure that we have that exemption. Be happy and willing to voluntarily work with you all on that as we see fit.
We appreciate that. Let me say this, Ben, and I know about the Roadhouse is really taking a heck of a hit, which should be a signal to every restaurant, whether if it follows you. But I know they were paying for, I didn't know about it at the time, but I paid for my own. But they were, if you had eaten there in that window, which I had, my wife and I.
So would I.
She did too. But all you had to do is say, you had eaten there, and they paid for it. I've talked to 3 restaurant owners and of chains here in town, and they were already, when this hit the Roadhouse, they all jumped in, we're doing this. I initiated a meeting with our health department about 2 weeks ago because I wanted our commission to be ahead of the curve on it, what you do. I mean, I was shocked, as you mentioned, that there's no state regulation on that.
I don't know of any state. I researched this, and very briefly, I do know this: the state of Kentucky, for the first time, this was just in December of this last year, passed legislation that kids going to school must show proof of a Hep A shot. That's how this is getting to be, and it only takes 5 minutes of Googling. You hear about it on the news in our area. This is happening everywhere.
Yes.
It's happening.
It always has, but it really, I mean, I can go state after state where there's 200 cases, 100 cases, and it's the lead-in case here on the news. And once again, restaurants get part of I'll say, the attention because it is food service, and that is certainly one way that it is, passed on. But it's passed on in other ways too. But
Yes, I've got most recent information of May 12th from our health department. When we met Maria Hardy, we got a lot of charts and graphs, and I think we were, the last time, I'll tell you what we were, when we met a couple of weeks ago, we were like at 44 or 54, we're at 64 as of May 12th. Louisville at the time, or Jefferson County, was 304
yes.
or something, but the ratio of their population to that and our population, we had a higher percentage for Ashland, Kentucky. And that got our attention.
And I think that is correct, yes.
So there are a lot of things, like we give a first readings to get it out there. We may or may not give it the first reading with all this new information. I'll leave it up to the commission or our attorney to kind of give us direction on it. You brought some very good information for us. Do you know of any other city in Kentucky stepping out to do this?
I know of no city legislatively, but this is just a newspaper article I read. The city of Louisville is helped underwriting and funding this very thing. And
one of the things Ms. Hardy told us was that as the numbers increased on getting the vaccinations, that they felt they could get better rates on the vaccine for each of those. I don't know. I think in helping in Jefferson County, they also, I heard a figure in the 30s is what they were paying per vaccination.
I've heard a range from basically $125 from $25 to about $140.
Yeah.
I talked to a restaurant owner this morning that said it was he was paying $66 per.
But another if you're a restaurant owner and all that, so you have somebody come to work for you. They look like the kind of person you want, and they have a religious objection to having the vaccination, and they already have it. They don't know it.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a risk we all take.
So
Even
no
before this
fail-safe.
happens, yet there's not, and what I envision is a form that they will sign off on. If they have that exemption, they got to put that in writing. We would hold that as records in case you need to see that. But if someone's already had their Hep A shot, they might be able to certify through medical records that they've had it, so you don't have to do it. But remember, it's an initial shot and a booster. So even if they got on here to say they required it, you got to make sure that they have that booster on the back end as well too. Which once again, if they're still employed at the establishment, they would then be required. The draft legislation I gave Mr. Martin was, within 1 year, because you're supposed to get it within 6 months. But some people, I'll get it 7 months. I'll get it next time I go to my doctor. As long as they get it is really the issue.
Now, I've been told by some of these other owners, that there is, a lot of these employees transition from, they'll work for you a while, then go to Roadhouse or to go to
Correct.
Penn Station or wherever. But of course, if they're doing the right thing, and that'll work, because they've had the back station, and when the time comes up, so it's kind of a pool of workers that can be monitored, at least in that regard. And I know, I'm very proud of our restaurant people, and certainly you being here today is emblematic of it, that it's, I mean, what else would you want to do, though? Our main role in everything we do, whether it's water, sewer, the streets, picking up your garbage or whatever, safety and welfare of our people. And that's why this commission wanted to step out front and be a legislative body that says, if that's what we stand for initially, then we need to move on this. But the fact that you took the time to come here is really going to be an assist for us. We want business to flourish, but we flourish if you flourish, okay? And as I've talked to these other owners and operators of these franchises, their position was real quick to me. Hey, we don't have any choice. You know, people aren't going to come here. We want to make sure they know we care about it. We're going to do it.
Good point, because irrespective of whether we were meeting here to consider this,
Yeah.
we are taking action as an industry on it, and certainly Arby's is doing that as well. But you know, you can still do everything, and you never know if that case is going to pop up.
Absolutely.
But this is, I told one of your commissioners, this is the one chance where local government touches more people's local lives than any other government, you know, state, federal. This is one thing, to me, it's a no-brainer, and that we can help them do that. And once again, we're taking the steps to do that. I'm glad to see you're doing it. I just wanted to, I thought this was a general discussion, but when I actually saw the proposed legislation, I thought, I'm gonna read this real quick.
Well, we get a lot of general discussion after a first reading.
I understand.
And that's okay, because we can amend them.
Right.
We listen to our people, okay? We listen to our people, especially people that are in the middle, the eye of the storm.
Right.
So, you gave us a lot of good stuff, and if commissioners have anything else to say, and I'll lend our corporation counsel to.
Do we want to discuss this right this minute, or when it comes up on the?
The iron's hot. we can, whatever you think.
Mr. Cripsey brought up a lot of questions that were on my list in terms of the booster and the exemptions, because my phone is blown up all morning about people who say, I don't want to take this shot. I have major opposition to the way the shot is produced and all sorts of crazy stuff. And
We'll going to discuss this in our agenda.
Okay.
You feel free to get back up, okay?
Okay.
I'm not sure what we're going to do with it today, but council
I'll hang around. Thank you for your time.
Please do. Thank you for being here. Anyone else like to hear this?
First of all, let me say that I appreciate everything each and every one of you guys do for our community. I've been a lifelong resident of Ashland, born and raised here.
Your name?
Rebecca Miller, sorry.
And
I
you'll give your
live
address?
I live on Crest Street in Ashland, actually right next door to Marty Goot.
Okay.
We've lived next door to Marty Goot since 2007. And, you know, we've never had any issues, always been good neighbors, until the election came up. Marty moved out of his home in February, and he's not been there since then. He's leased it or renting it to a younger girl named Monica Skaggs. I brought this to Marty's attention and said, why do you continue to try to maintain the position in Ashland when you're living in Mount Sterling? I mean, we're literally right next door to him. We watched him physically move out of the residence, watched the other person move into the residence. I have text messages between Marty and I that, show, he texted me and kind of got me in the middle, because people were asking me, does he still live here running for this election? And I said, that's not really my place to say, and it's not. You need to ask Marty. So when they asked Marty, Marty said, yes, I still live here. And then anyway, to make a long story short, it gets back to me, and I'm kind of brought in the middle of everything. And I've asked Marty, I said, you're a man of God, you're a pastor of a church. Why are you trying to lie to the people? Because I believe in total transparency with the election, total transparency with any political figure. I think truth is the best way to go. And I have tried talking to him. I've tried calling, different, like I came down this morning to speak to the city manager, and he was busy. So I didn't really have another option. And I have nothing to gain from this. It's just a matter of truth, you know, and it's a matter of people that are working for the city, according to the commissioner rules, need to physically reside within the city of Ashland, and he does not. So I don't know if you could look into that, or if maybe, you know, the messages that I have would help with that. I can print those out and bring them. Because one night his renter was having a party and I had to call him, you know, and he said he called her and he took care of that. But it's just proof that he does not physically reside there. So I don't know how that pertains, you know, what I can do from here other than just speak the truth.
Well, I've really never been confronted with that before. I think because, Mr. Commissioner Good, I don't know if you want to.
Well, I take issue with this. It's no big secret that I've coached here for 40 years, spring sports. I took a break last year. I have 4 children and 5 grandchildren in Lacey and Louisville. I bought a part-time place in Mount Sterling, but my physical primary residence is 2301 Crest Street, Ashland, Kentucky. A friend of mine needed a place. She wanted to look over it while I was working on the house, and this is a short-term arrangement that we have. She works at Woodland Oaks, and she said, I'll look over the property when you're gone and working on the property down there and in between places. So I go and watch all my kids and grandkids play ball and go to dance recitals and so forth like that, but I'm at my residence every day. I eat there, I sleep there, I'm there every day. I'm at the city building 5 days a week. I see the mayor most days, every day. I'm here in Ashland physically. This is my home, and it will continue to be my home.
But I think the point of, you know, one of the major rules of being a city commissioner is you have to physically reside in the city of Ashland.
And I do, ma'am.
You have not spent one
Yes, I
night
have.
in that home.
Yes, I have.
Since. We have a camera.
Okay.
You've not spent one night in the home since.
This probably isn't the forum to get into a debate about the issue.
Do you offer any?
Well, there are options available under the statute for a citizen that has that issue, but this isn't the forum. But having said that, and I'm not trying to throw water or in either direction, but we're not going to resolve it today. It's a subjective issue that would have to be determined by a fact finder, and we're not the fact finder.
I haven't been faced with this before, but the election system is run through the county courthouse, not the city of Ashland.
Right,
But I don't.
I didn't know where else to go.
I
It's just
appreciate
a
that.
matter of, you know, being transparent and being honest. And, you know, like I begged Marty, I said, why are you doing this? Why can't you just be honest, you know? And that's the main thing, I think, is honesty. And when I'm being brought in the middle, I'm not going to lie. Even though he's asked me in text messages, if anybody asks you, please tell them I'm still here. I have that in writing from him back in April.
Because it's
So,
true.
you know, we physically watched the movie. I mean, we've seen.
We're not going to
So-
resolve this.
Just Bill, I appreciate you appearing, and I think you would have to deal with the elections board or the courthouse, not us.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else like to appear before us? Thank you for being here. Old business, we took care of that, right, in our budget meeting. Consent agenda.
Resolution, City of Ashland, Kentucky, adopting, authorizing, and approving the course of action presented by the city manager on items appearing on the consent agenda for the regular meeting, Board of City Commissioners, May 24, 2018.
So moved.
Any discussion? I had one item, I should have, pretty busy today. Normally I have a little time, but on item 3, that amount is I guess scraping, painting. Y'all would think you could replace it for less than that.
No, it would probably cost well over $1 million to replace that tank. It's about $1 per gallon ballpark, and it's a 1 million gallon tank.
So was that, did we, take ownership of that when we took over the Catlettsburg water system?
Yes, in the 70s.
So how old is it?
Early 60s is when it was constructed. I don't believe the inside has ever been painted.
Really?
It's a complete coating failure on the inside, so it's in dire need of
How often we do ours?
the exterior, we've done almost all of the exteriors in the last 5 to 7 years.
I'm thinking interior.
Most of them don't need it yet. Most of ours were erected in '86, and they're really close to needing an interior coating, like within the next 5 or 10 years.
But there's also more to this. It's not just, the coating is important, but there's also other significant work on this, Mayor. Installing roof railings, repairing roof vents, replacing the center column, so forth, that are all part of this. And the estimate is that this will extend the life of that tank by 30 years.
Yeah, we shouldn't have to touch it for 30 years. It'll repair a lot of the structural damage over the years.
Yeah, thank you, Mr.
You're welcome.
Smith. Do we have a motion? Any other questions on it? All in favor?
I was just gonna say.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It looks like streetscape projects are moving forward, but glad to see that.
Yeah, and Mr. Eastwood, do we know anything today we didn't know yesterday in the budget meeting about streetscape? Have we got any firm go ahead?
No, KYTC is still reviewing our agreement to maintain the signals, and it's down in Frankfurt. But as far as the plan review, they've said they have no more comments. They're just waiting on the legal department down in Frankfurt to give us the go-ahead. So we plan on the beginning of June, and it'll probably be completed right around October.
I'll tell you what, we tried not to be a bureaucracy in Ashland. I know some people still think we probably are, and somewhat in code enforcement or planning and zoning. I don't know. I mean, that's where the action is, Mr. Pullum. I'm not saying we are, but until you deal with Frankfurt, you don't understand bureaucracy. I mean it. I think Ashland has a reputation over the years, and I'll say it, people like us and people I've served with before try to do the right thing. You know, if something, you know, whether it's signage, it's lights, it's water tanks, you know, road, whatever it is, we have a pretty good reputation. And that being with, forget about that, we have so many things held up in Frankfurt, and we always have, and always do. And I don't get it. I honest to goodness don't get it. There are thousands of employees down there that could you know, review these things. We have consultants, we have engineers involved, and we still run into all kinds of delays. And it affects us, it affects our citizens. Just my stone at Frankfurt, which I wish it was a big
I'm
one.
gonna try to make you feel a little better. I think they're trying to overcome that. I get that impression sometimes.
Well, it's some economic development areas I would agree with
Yeah.
you. That's it. That's important.
That's a hard reputation to overcome. No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. New business, item A.
Ordinance City of Ashland, Kentucky authorizing directing the mayor to execute a contract between the city, Morton Salt Inc. for the purchase of approximately 1,500 tons of treated rock salt at $84 per ton delivered to the Department of Public Services and Utilities Operations Division of Streets. So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed, like sign. Item B.
Ordinance City of Ashland, Kentucky, amending the zoning map of the official zoning ordinance of the city, number 101, series 86, as previously amended by changing the zoning classification of 542 Blackburn Avenue from R5 multi-single family residential medium density to B1 neighborhood business.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'm kind of excited about this, just because it's a place that's been empty and nobody's done anything with it for a long time. We've got a business that wants to go in.
As was the planning commission that voted unanimously for it. There needs to be at least a caveat, and I'm sure you looked at the material, this is spot zoning.
Right.
And ordinarily, spot zoning is frowned upon legally, and goes against the comprehensive plan and our expressed intent in terms of our development. And I felt the need to say that. I'm not telling you.
Right.
Because the planning commission had exactly the same reaction that you had. You've got an old building sitting there, that unless you take this action, it's gonna be an old building sitting there that can't be used for any other purpose. So this is one of those rare instances where it's a real tough call to make. But the planning commission came down on the side of doing something useful for, and the neighborhood, and Mr. Pullen was present at the meeting. Those that came to the meeting from the neighborhood were supportive of the application.
So most everybody I've talked to about it has had the same response.
All in favor? Opposed, like sign. Item C.
Ordinance City of Ashland, Kentucky, fixing the regulatory license fee at 4% of the gross receipts from sale of alcoholic beverages within the city during fiscal year July 1, 18 through June 30, 19, is authorized and imposed by Section 25, Ordinance 59, Series 18, known and cited as the Alcoholic Beverage Control Ordinance for the city. Such proceeds to be used to reimburse the city for expenses related to the sale of alcoholic beverages therein.
Have a motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign. Item D.
Ordinance City of Ashland, Kentucky, authorizing and directing the mayor to execute a contract between the city, Worldwide Industries Corporation for repair and painting Catlettsburg water storage tank in the amount $364,834 with the Division of Water Distribution.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a question. The painting of the tank is $246,524, and then it says alternative bids, exterior paint, so we're doing all of it?
Yes.
And that's what adds up to that $346, okay, I'm just making sure. Thank you.
Inside now. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign. Item E.
Ordinance City of Ashland, Kentucky, authorizing and approving change order number 3 between the city, Tribute Contracting and Construction LLC, a contract regarding 29th Street Stormwater Separation Project, granting a 90-day extension from April 14 to July 13, 2018, completion of the project for the Department of Engineering and Utilities.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Have a second? We can't discuss it if you wish a second, and I'll tell you about my meeting.
Yeah, you need a second to discuss. No second, no discussion.
Good grief.
I would like a second on it. I don't care how you vote, but I'd like a second. Thanks. I did meet with Tribute yesterday, and this was part of the catalyst for me wanting to sit down with them. The whole project for all of us has been torturous, and not near as much as on our vendors and our residents in that area, as well as residents who use Belmont and 29th Street. But this particular extension, I can tell you, my first position was, don't even go there. I mean, what's the deal? And it appears in our meeting that, of course, it's till July 13th now, so it's closer than we think. But it's due to 2 factors. And I made him explain it all out, and I had the city manager and our city engineer speak to our role in it being probably one of the main causes, because some of the people that come to all our meetings may or may not know, but when we were putting our combined sewer overflow, this is all federal mandated work we're doing. And when we were doing that project, the project had got started, then we figured out we could really solve a water problem for a lot of people in that area of town by putting a new water line in. I think we put a
12 inch and 16.
12 and 16. It had an 8 inch. And so it's going to give pressure, it's going to give flow to a whole lot of citizens in that area. We decided it was a great time to put it in the same, kind of the same ditch. They dug a much deeper ditch for the CSO line, so we come back in on top with our water line, but there was a delay there. And then you have to do all the taps. I didn't know everything going on at the time. I knew we'd all approved that to happen because it's prudent and financially efficient for us to do it that way. It saved us a lot of money to do it this way. And our own people did that. They did the ditch work. We just go in there from people. So that delayed them some. And then we did a similar line up Simpson Road, which I wasn't aware of that. The manager wanted to take some responsibility that he probably didn't explain it enough to us. But I think sometimes, because we have been around and been here, I think he sometimes thinks we know exactly what's going on there. But he didn't have to take a lot of fault for it, but he was very explanatory in that meeting yesterday with the contractor that we played a part in this delay. So I kind of accepted that myself. I'm not telling you all have to accept it, but I have explained it to you that it appeared that we played a role in the need for this extension.
I appreciate the explanation. I have two statements / questions. One, this is an extension from April 14th. What is the penalty that they didn't finish on April 14th? If that was the original.
I don't think that's the original.
Why is it back? What's the significance of April 14th?
That's when they submitted the letter to us, Commissioner. That's when they submitted the extension. And when you're done, I'd like to expound on
Okay.
that.
And I guess,
That's a good question.
I guess if we caused the delay when we put the line in, why did we not know that when we put the line in? Because that's been all along we've been told we're on time, we're on time, we're on time. This is going to finish on time. We're exactly where we're supposed to be, and now suddenly we're not.
Yeah, well, Commissioner Perkins was in there with me in the meeting, and that, trust me, that prompted us to ask that very question. And there's probably not a clear-cut answer to that.
I'll give you my perspective on this. So, as the mayor said, when we decided to put the new water line on 29th Street at the very beginning of the project in August timeframe, when we had the break on Highway 23 in August, we realized if we would have had a more redundancy from the DeBoer Tower, we would have affected much less than half of the 10,000 estimated citizens.
Right.
So it became a blinding flash of the obvious at that point that it should be done while the roads are dug out. I was optimistic that, given the amount of time until the completion of the contract, which was the end of May, to have everything completed, that we would have that time, especially given the fact that the board made a decision to also expedite overtime or to approve overtime to get through the rock that they had down there. And so that was my optimism. When we approved the addition of Simpson to add, for the same reason, to dig up Simpson, when we had funds from this year's budget, I did not properly predict and advertise, if you will, that there was a potential that this could extend. I frankly thought that we would still finish. At that point, I thought we would finish on time. We put the line on Simpson for the exact same reason that we put it on to 29th Street. And so that, I'll take full responsibility for that. These aren't the only two things in there. We also found a culvert that was right outside of Ken's, a massive culvert that delayed us by a couple weeks that we didn't even know existed there. And that took a...
Why did we not know these things existed?
There's certain parts of our records are accurate. There was a gap in time through a period of years where some things just weren't properly tracked. I think I mentioned late last fall, we now have a GIS operator that tracks all these type things when they go in there. They have video, they have pictures. It's put into the GIS system on multiple layers, whether it's water, sewer, or whatever. We didn't have that information, and we did have to get on how we tackled both the culvert on both sides of Ken's. That required state approval. That was a little bit of time, but absolutely that was a time delay. But I think the biggest part of this is at my feet on not predicting that the contractor would ask for an extension.
So that discussion, or that explanation, leads me to one more question. What if we say no?
If we say no, they're pushing as hard as they can to get this done.
I don't believe that.
Okay.
I don't. You know, we go through there and there's nobody on the street.
Well, I did ask yesterday, I asked if they would mind going to 5 days a week instead of 4 10s or whatever, because I said the same thing. I go by there and don't see them, but they are working 5 days now. They told me yesterday they are working 5 days
Even the
shifts.
weekend.
They said they'd be working all weekend, so this is Memorial Day weekend.
Right time and a half.
We'll be around to see it. But
There's multiple subcontractors on this, and they're trying to coordinate schedules to get done. And Commissioner, one other point is, you're not always gonna see them in the street. If you go behind kids, they built a massive head wall that they had their crews down there doing that. They were out of sight.
Mhm.
And again, it's not every day. One subcontractor works 4 10s, which is more efficient for startup costs daily. That's the cement contractor. We can't get the pavement down until the cement is completed. What our goal right now is to have 29th Street done, paved from Forest down to the current paving, and Belmont up to Simpson. When they complete the rest of the cement work and we can get Mountain back out there, they'll finish the rest of that road. There's going to be a lot, as our community has pointed out, puddling on the roads, waving on the roads, some issues that have to be addressed. Those will be addressed as part of the punch list items. So they will not, we retain, I think it's 10% of the contract as retainer fee to fix those punch list items, and engineering is tracking those right now. And they're talking, for the meeting with the mayor and Commissioner Perkins yesterday, they're tracking most of what those issues are. But all that, I didn't answer your question. What happens is, I guess this could go to litigation. I think this could go to litigation. If we choose not to give an extension, they'd say, hey, they'd have to prove that these were reasonable delays that were caused not by them and delay the project.
I will say, if you've been up there after rain, that we're not happy with the water cooling on 29th Street, and that was a topic I wanted to clear yesterday. They're aware of it. They say they'll take care of it. And then on 29th Street, down towards right in the roofing company, I came up through there, and it's a roller coaster. And if you're coming down 29th and you look ahead in that oncoming lane, you can see it. You can see the hump. So they would sure be that, and Mountain has always done good work for us, and the other ones will have to do that. And I'm confident they will, but just be assured that at some point, you know, when a bill comes into us and we're not happy with the work, we're not paying it. I told them there yesterday that I'm not going to vote to pay anything until all these things meet our approval. And it's not like I'm an engineer and I can figure all that out. Some of this stuff doesn't take an engineer to figure out there's a problem. I can't always tell you how you ought to fix it, but I can tell you how I don't want my citizens to deal with it. So I think they're honorable people. I don't think that's the issue. I think you get a big job like this, it's a multi-million-dollar job, and it was hard on our residents, I know that. It still is hard on residents. Those are routes I take every day. I want to. And I took them a lot when I shouldn't have, so I could say, well, I'm going through there anyway. You know, when I drove my truck those days. It was rough. But we're near the end. That's the saving grace, at least at this point. That's the only way you can look at it. We fought the good fight, and hopefully it's about over on this project. And you learn, every project you learn a little bit more. I listened, I was right in that camp. Trust me, that's why I wanted to meet with him yesterday. I personally, I don't care if you vote for it or not. Everybody needs to vote their conscience every time up here, but I don't foresee any resolution otherwise. I just want to get done.
Yeah.
I don't see a way out.
Yes, I don't think it's Commissioner. I think we just go with it. As I said, there,
Well, whether you give them the extension or not, it's gonna take them a long to finish the job. And then there are the issues about how you resolve the over after they finish.
okay, call question. Do I have a motion to?
Motion, there was a motion, there was a second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, folks. I mean, I understand. I'm very the same
You don't have
mindset.
a choice.
Okay, thanks. And I'm not a cheerleader for anybody. I just want to get this done. Item N.
Ordinance City of Ashland, Kentucky, amending Part 5 Compensation Plan, Section K of the Policies and Procedures. Compensation Plan Classification Plan is adopted by Ordinance 51, Series 17, as previously amended.
Just,
We have a motion?
Second.
Discussion.
Just, explain this to the public.
Basically, this clarifies in the city policy and procedures that if longevity is approved as part of the current year budget, there's no need to adopt a separate resolution 2 times a year for the longevity pay.
Thank you.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye, sorry.
Opposed, like sign. Item G.
Ordinance City of Ashland, Kentucky, authorizing and directing the mayor to submit program year 2018 action plan for the Community Development Block Grant to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and upon acceptance of said application from HUD to execute on behalf of the city an agreement with HUD to enable the city to undertake these activities and/or any and all documents associated with the grant submitted.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I recuse myself.
Excused. Item H.
Ordinance City of Ashland, Kentucky, adopting regulations for the business entities providing food services within the city, requiring hepatitis A inoculations for workers engaged in the handling of food to be consumed by the public.
Get a motion in a second. We can get back to this discussion on
So
this.
moved. Second.
Discussion. Council?
Well, I think Mr. Cooksey raises some very legitimate issues, and I certainly think it warrants revisiting the draft. What everyone, I'm sure, recognizes is no other city in Kentucky has tackled this issue. And this is the first draft approach being given to a city of Kentucky. I think we certainly need to be concerned about religious concerns. We need to incorporate the 6-month booster. We need to address the prior inoculations. If and I'll need to read to see if in fact it is addressed. But
Would you advise us to go ahead and approve?
well, you know, what I would say is this: you can amend the first reading, and by giving it first reading, you take a statement, you take a stand on it, and I think that you do no harm by giving it first reading. And we can come back with an amended first reading instead of the second reading, which will extend it to requiring a second reading of the amended ordinance.
Okay.
But by giving first reading of our draft, it makes a statement.
I agree with that.
Agree.
But I do think that we need to gather
And
Mr. Cooksey and people like him and anybody who's interested for input on
Yeah, all
this.
parties need to be.
Because I think there are some opposing viewpoints
You bet.
that need to be heard as well.
Sure. And Ms. Hardy from the Health Department also is here.
You know, which is also the reason why you have two readings, to give, you know, persons the opportunity to remonstrate.
Would you like to speak on this, Ms. Martin? I mean, you don't have to, I'm not making you, but I mean, if you wanted to
Do you want me to come there? or-
Yes.
Yes, just brief health department, I mean, you know, you're all of our health department, all of Boyd County, which includes us. I do want to throw in, because when we met, I had talked to Judge Toller, and he was on board. He said, we need to do this jointly. Now, he had not talked to his commission at that point, but he said he was going to. So I'll have to touch base with him. I thought it should be a unified effort. I thought it should be all Boyd Countyans, which is us too. But if not, then I wanted it to be a unified effort, but we can certainly bring them into the fold, I hope, on this issue.
My name is Maria Hardy. I'm the director of Ashland Boyd County Health Department. And I did meet with the mayor and his team a couple of weeks ago, and we discussed the need for this. We had also discussed what was previously discussed about there's not another city in the state that I'm aware of, nor in basically nationwide. I did find the San Francisco or St. Louis information that was referenced earlier. One thing I'd like to address is that when you, part of this may be just terminology in the fact when individuals receive hepatitis A, it is always a 2 series. It's always 2 for it to be complete immunity. They have to have the initial one, and after the initial inoculation, they receive about 95% immunity after that first injection. But to get the 100% immunity, they need to have that second one. I think this is probably just every individual or every group have their own lingo, if you notice that, so to speak. When we say the health department and the Department of Public Health that someone needs a hepatitis A shot, that is inclusive to be both. It's not complete. The vaccination is not complete until they receive both doses. So I think that's a simple terminology definition referencing that could be easily addressed. And also about the religious exemption and contraindications by medical reasons such as pregnancy. This is something that's already addressed in the state regulations for schools. So we could possibly just duplicate much of what they have in their guidelines for the immunizations for school children. And another thing that you have to keep in mind, which we discussed, is that there is a thing called herd immunity. So it's going to be okay if some of the individuals at restaurants or food service agencies do not receive the whole, or they don't receive the vaccine, just as is, because not all of our children in schools receive their vaccines. But it's a herd immunity, which means that the population receives the benefits, and even those that aren't immunized, if you get a high enough population rate, around 90% of the population, 80 to 90%, then you receive that herd immunity. So it's still going to be beneficial. And I'll have to reiterate that the restaurants in Ashland and Boyd County have been amazing. They have gone above and beyond, and they jumped on this from the first inkling that we were having this, and many of them have already had all of their staff and have all been immunized. They're 100% already. So it's not going to be as costly for many of the restaurants that have already done this. But another thing we need to remember is that because the state has now required the hepatitis A vaccine for our students in schools starting for this fall, in the next few years you're going to have a group of workers coming out that are already immunized. So it's going to mitigate some of the cost for the food service employers.
Hey, sorry. So on that line, are they just going to immunize K to 3, or just are they going to every student at school?
It's every student, even if the ones that are a senior this year, they still have to have the.
Because a lot of them are working in
and
these,
they have to have both doses.
already working in some of these restaurants.
Right.
You know.
Exactly. So eventually, we're going to get that herd immunity accomplished. But, like I said, the restaurants and the food service, not just restaurants, but all the food service industries have been amazing in Boyd County.
That's great news to
Any
hear.
other questions?
Anybody? No, thank you very much for being here too. Okay, well, we have a motion and a second. We'll go ahead and pass this on first reading, and then we'll add, Mr. Cooksey, thanks for being here with that information. And we'll have, please come back in 2 weeks. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, like sign. Thank you, guys. Proactive pace setter. At this point, we'd like to have a little presentation on a development that we want to start on very soon on 16th Street Plaza. And been working on this for over a year. I appointed a committee, I forget when, but a year or so ago, and they've been meeting and working, and we the engineering firm, the local engineering firm, who has also been working on that particular site on 16th Street. And I will, at this point, no one's seen any of this stuff yet. We just actually saw it ourselves yesterday. We really didn't see it like this, though. We saw it on an iPad, I guess, so this is going to be good for us, too. But this is going to be a garden area, plaza, park. It's going to be expanded. It's going to be larger than it is now. It's going to be extremely aesthetically pleasing for the center of town. I think our residents, our merchants, everybody's going to really appreciate this signature development downtown Ashland. This again is on the 16th Street Plaza next to Community Trust Bank.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much. As you mentioned, Mayor Gilmore, we did have a committee meeting yesterday, and I appreciate the opportunity to give you an update on this. We met with the committee, and now we're ready to move forward with final engineering. We would like your blessing to move forward, so that's why we brought this to you. Some of the items that we've run into with the engineering firm who's done a lot of the research and background, they did a LiDAR survey scan of both the Judd Plaza and also underneath the bank. And what that is that it basically shoots thousands and thousands of points of laser to get an actual point file of where everything is. So what we were able to determine is exactly how far out the bank comes into this plaza, because there's a lot of people don't realize there's a large underground room that comes out of the bank that they use that comes into the plaza. So it has affected our design. We've moved some things over from the original preliminary layouts. The gray area right here is actually the underground part of Community Trust Bank.
Mr. Pruitt, you feel free to get up, get everywhere you can, take a picture.
So what we've done is we've moved some features away. We want to make sure we're not planting trees in that area. We're trying to make sure that the work that we do there, we're going to waterproof that roof, if you will, in between our concrete plaza, so that there won't be any water problems in the future. Right now, I think they have a little bit of water seepage issues. We're going to solve those with this project. We're designing to accommodate future streetscapes, so we've got to get a lot of electrical conduits through the plaza out to Winchester, because there's still 2 blocks of streetscape that need to be accomplished from 15th Street all the way up to 17th Street. So we're designing a lot for future going through this plaza. But right now there won't be very much impact to Winchester at all. It'll be mainly on the plaza itself. We've expanded the scope a little bit to address the corridor all the way to Carter Avenue. If you don't mind, go ahead and turn to that one. With the expansion of the plaza, we are going to take the 2-lane brick street over here down to 1 lane. And it actually allows the plaza to get a little bit larger. Well, it doesn't tie in very well to the street beyond it, up by the the county clerk's office and Speedy Signs and those vendors up there. So what we've done is we've looked at how it would address going further up. And can you pull out on that one? Out. Keep going out a little bit. So what we plan on doing is reducing it down to one lane all the way to Carter. And this would allow us to use the existing brick road to put angled parking in there. So we would convert 3 existing parking stalls into 9 angled parking stalls on 16th Street. And with also the corner work that we would be doing here on Carter, it would help define a kind of a confusing intersection already if you've driven this before, and also help us to get some angled parking in there, which there's already angled parking all the way down Carter, so you could potentially get 5 parking stalls instead of the 2 that are on the side of Speedy Signs. And that's been a lot of the request from a lot of the businesses in that area, that there's a very limited amount of parking. So this cost-wise is a fairly small amount compared to the plaza itself, but it really just ties it all in. Inside the plaza itself, we have a couple of water features. Mayor Gilmore had specifically requested, he likes water features, and we wanted to accommodate that. And also,
well, we're going to have a lot of plantings there, and there's nothing better than a little park area. It has some water moving. Now, what they've come up with is beyond my imagination. I've seen it at big airports, but I've never seen it in a small area. I think we're going to be pretty well known for this at some point.
We like the suggestion, but what we were trying to do is also make very, very low maintenance water features that have a great impact artistically. So we've chosen what they call a jumping jet. And what it is it shoots these little laminar streams. They look like big streams of fiber optic, and LED lights will go all the way through them. So, and we'll show you a video here shortly. But the good thing about it is you can do it in a river stone rock bed, so that you don't have an open fountain with algae problems and sunlight heating it and things like that. The reservoir is underground, and it's also quiet. So if you have an event right there, it's not making a whole lot of noise all the time. So, and each of these fountains, they're very, very low wattage, so the energy efficiency is very good. But let's go ahead and play the video. Now this is just one vendor, but it showed a pretty good indicator of. Go ahead and turn this on. Of what it will look like.
It'll go up to 12 feet, or you can bring it down to whatever footage you want up in the air.
What we're planning on doing is there's actually a PLC controller which controls the logic of these, and they can do all kinds of different designs. They can change the colors. They can make them look like they're leaping back and forth. They can, there's just a lot of different things that you can do with one controller. But
Do they show one where they smash each
yeah,
other?
let's we'll go ahead and let's scroll forward a little bit. What you can do, like we had talked about, is if you have 2 strings hit each other, the burst that occurs at the end of them is very, very bright. And the PLC controller can control the string to where it will make the burst make decorations in the air, make circles or things like that. So
It could be green and blue for the city most of the time, and at Christmas it could be red and green and white or whatever through the holidays. Pretty neat.
Now this shows it in an actual open pool or an open water source. we would probably do the underground water source with the river stone so that leaves aren't falling in it, they're getting filtered out, people throwing trash in it, it's not getting in the reservoir, so it'll have a certain amount of filtration and be a little bit less maintenance on our staff. So that's right now the direction we'd like to go with this. And
we have a number of trees. Of course, Ken Jenkins has made the design, and Glenn, I'm pretty sure we had a colored one she did, and I want to get a hold of her, see if she can get that to you. It's really impressive. But there are a lot of benches, walkway through there, a lot of shade, and the trees that she's coming up with, for if you were having an event, there's going to be a permanent stage there. It's about 12 inches high, and there's a ramp on either side for handicap access. But, you know, for whatever we have, plays, music, or whatever, Christmas stuff, seasonal stuff. And then the trees are going to be such that you'll have good vision of it. And even to the point that where when we used to have a lot of things on the plaza, people would sit on the steps of Presbyterian Church a lot. And so it's going to be designed so those will still be focal points for it. And, you know, I know some people would say, well, you know, you sure one lane's enough? Well, I've been around a long time, and I don't ever remember coming west or going east that, or north or south, that there was every other car but me that turned to go down there. I've never had another car next to me going through there. Now, when you get out to the Carter Avenue, sometimes you're going to turn right, another car was over here. But I really believe picking up about 10 additional spaces for those vendors on not only 16th Street, but around the corner, is going to be a big help to them. And it makes it clear, as our engineer said, much clearer intersection there when this is done. It's actually going to be about how many feet larger than, or wider than it is right now over there?
Well, total from the face of the building, it's going to be a little more than 50 feet, probably 55 feet. So
it's about 15 feet bigger than it is now, wider. That's a lot of space.
11. And I have from the beginning, I thought we needed to do that. The historical significance of 16th Street anyway.
You bet. And just for future reference, you know, it's we haven't named it yet or anything, but 16th Street was originally Broadway, and I have the 1800 maps and all that shows it. And I go to a little town up in Ohio every year for the longest horse and buggy Christmas parade in the world, probably, certainly in America, a place called Lebanon. And in the middle of their town, a little small town, country town, but they have a big wide street like Winchester, and their main area in front of what's called the Golden Lamb, which is a very historic, Abraham Lincoln ate there, I think. But a lot of presidents through history have eaten at this place. It looks exactly the same way now as it did then. But the reason they're wide is the same reason our Winchester and Broadway were wide, for stagecoaches. Stagecoaches would come into town and they'd turn around and go back to Portsmouth, you know, Cincinnati, wherever they're going. And it was so for that big turnaround. And we're going to hold that sacrosanct in the future, trust me,
Yeah.
with all our development there.
I hope that, I have a vision in my head that I hope to live to see in terms of connecting that plaza all the way to the river and back. And so
We want to go on down to Greenup Avenue with a similar kind of sprucing up and renovation to tie that whole area together. We're excited about it. I hope our citizens will be excited about it. It's a real plus thing. Our merchants, I think, will really be happy about it. But but it's going to be one of those things. Instead of utility development. I don't mean water and sewer. I just mean something that, hey, you got to have this, keep cars coming up on the road or up on the curb and all that. This is truly going to be a citizen gift, in my opinion. They're really going to appreciate this, and I'm certainly going to appreciate it for my family and everybody else.
Just a matter of no for somebody who will probably.
Glad you asked, because we had all these engineers here, sir, Commissioner, and that's always my question, and
We're still putting the timeline together, and I was gonna deliver you, the most aggressive versus, some different options. So, but as far as moving forward, we'd like to get moving forward with our engineer and at least give them direction that they can go ahead and go with the design as is and design it, because there's nothing worse than an engineering contract to redesign because things keep moving around or vision
we
changes.
pretty well have it the way we want it, and then they've already engineered, they're gonna do a little bit more over in the bank, underneath, because that's a big part of this project, the water lines, electric lines, all that sort of thing. We had 3 engineers here yesterday with that same company, so a couple figures were knocked out, but, and I know we can't hold them to it, but they felt very strongly if we get a contractor in to get after it, which all of us will be involved in deciding who that is. He said very potentially 120 days. So I would hope before Thanksgiving, before the Christmas parade and all that, and then we kind of zeroed in on looking at Halloween. Maybe by around that period of time, this would be completed.
We might add, after the engineer gets done with the redrawing of it, we'll probably ask for quick readings on, when it comes up to the board, so not to wait those 2 weeks. We might reduce the amount of time that it goes out for bid, but we'll have to be very aggressive on some of those things to meet that timeline. But you all will understand why.
I think I was covered up a second ago on this comment, but just for a matter of public note, this is money that we budgeted last year for this project, so I'm thrilled to see that we're moving forward on it.
So do we need to have a motion to move
Thank
forward
you.
with this design?
So moved.
Yes, yeah.
That's your motion, I'll say.
We need a motion to approve the design concept and to move forward. All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. Glenn, before you get away, I'm gonna get a hold of Ms. Jenkins to see if she can get that to you as soon as possible. This signature project for us, and I want it to look the best when you run it. Appreciate everything you've been doing over there. You make some big changes for us. We appreciate it. Any other new business? We're going to go executive session to discuss individual personnel matter. I'm not sure how long we'll be in there. We will take no action, and when we come back out, we're not going to take any action. It's a discussion item of individual personnel. We appreciate you being here. Hope you come back, and we're in recess at this point.
Need a motion to go in.
Motion to recess.
To go into
Recess.
Executive session. All in favor? Madam Clerk, let the record reflect we returned at 2:20 from executive session for individual personnel. As all was talked about, no action was taken. Motion adjourned.
So moved.
Mayor Commissioner's reminder, employee lunch tomorrow, 11 to 2.
That's cool.
The arrangement's going to be.
At the pool.
What time do you want to be here, Mark? What time do you go?